Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Make Time Podcast. I'm Dr. Perry. Today, I will be doing a solo cast, and we'll be talking mainly about actually the key to the whole Make Time system. Now, I give a lot of speeches to financial advisors, business owners, faith-based groups about how to manage their time to achieve their goals. Goal setting for most people in these groups are really crucial. Financial advisors are actually helping people achieve their financial goals, and so they really understand the essence and the importance of having goals. They also understand how important it is to do this for themselves. So this is a crucial piece of the Make Time podcast, and it's a crucial piece of the Make Time productivity system in general. So let me give a little bit more of an explanation. Because as I talk about these steps, there's really 5 steps of the Make Time productivity system. First is the goals and values, which you've heard a lot about on my Make Time moments. And if you've been following me, it's always really about goals and values-based goals. The second one really is then how do you become more prioritized in those goals? Third is the productivity section. Most gurus, time management experts, want to talk about productivity as the end all, and actually I give a talk about this called the productivity myth. And if you only talk about this one, you miss everything. Because you just are going to be talking about how to do things quicker and faster, but you may be doing everything wrong because you're not based in goals. The next 2 steps are really based around your accountability and including your spouse to be involved in this. If you're a couplepreneur or a married entrepreneur who knows that, yes, it's all about having the spouse on board, having the spouse to help you, know that this is a crucial piece. That doesn't even mean that you need to have the spouse involved actively in the business. Some people identify or define a couplepreneur as 2 people inside the business. I've worked with entrepreneurs for years and been an entrepreneur for years and know that just because my wife's not physically in the office doing the work doesn't mean she's not an active part of the business. So that said, my thoughts are directed for you today in this solo cast to be able to dive deep into the key of all of this Make Time productivity system, which is the ideal calendar. Ideal calendar, we know that there's 2 aspects of it that I explain in my Make Time productivity system in my training. I'll include the links to that course here below. But definitely like, share, comment about this on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast here after it's been recorded, definitely give us some feedback. Let us know what you think at travis@travisperry.com. So with that said, there's 2 aspects. There's the business side of the ideal calendar and the personal. Personal really is the 9 other areas that you have in your life that are important to you. Those things that you go to work for, what you live for, and what we talk about on the Make Time Moments and the Make Time podcast all the time. But the business side, the career aspect of it, is important. I just did a YouTube video for a Make Time moment here that really discussed how and showed how you can figure out all of your most important activities in your workday. So if you haven't watched that, I'm not going to go over that right now, but I will also throw a link in for that one. It'll probably be up here someplace as well on the YouTube channel, that you can be able to take that training and go through that first. You will need to do that in order to create an ideal calendar for your business. Now, the whole idea of creating a business ideal calendar is to actually squeeze as much productivity time in there as possible so that you can then leave work and go spend time in those other areas that are most important. When I have people prioritize their goals and values, it's usually the top 3 things have to do with health and relationships. Yes, money is important, but the whole reason for money is usually so that they can have more time for those above things. So this is how this all kind of works together. So the idea for the business ideal calendar is what we're focusing on today, is try to squeeze as much productivity time in there so you can do these other things. Not to just be productive for 80 hours a week, which, by the way, you entrepreneurs out there on average are working about 71 hours per week, but you'd like to be at about 42. Okay, so I don't really do that, Dr. Perry. That's fine. Maybe you don't, or maybe you've never tracked your time. As I ask people to track their time and then I do these activities with them, they usually underestimate, just like their age and their weight, how much time they're spending on their business. We always like to think we're better than average. It's a natural phenomenon, especially entrepreneurs who are leaders and goal-driven. I'm trying to make it in the business world type of people. Okay, so the whole idea then for an ideal calendar is not to spend all of your time at work. It's to squeeze as much time into that. And the Make Time Productivity System, that I've linked down below, gives a whole section on productivity, how to be productive, and more podcasts will come on that in the future. But that's not the sole goal. The sole goal is to end up being able to spend more time to work on your health, on your relationships, and yes, even your personal finances that come from the business. So here we go. How much time do you want to be spending? Well, if you filled out that worksheet that I've linked below and that exercise that I've done previously, you will have an ideal number of hours. On average, this is about 42, as I've mentioned, but you'll also have a list of about 5 to 7 top activities, at least 3 to 5. For me, it is speaking, podcasting, being a podcast guest, and everything that goes with that, coaching, and consulting. Those are my top 4. Everything else that I do that's associated, I try to outsource. I try to have other employees or people on my team work with me, or software work for me, so that I can accomplish those things and be much more productive. So I try to get down below that 40. I'd like to be around about 35 hours. Now, we're all going to have different numbers, but those are essentially what I do and the time that I'd like to be spending at work so that I can be doing other things. I volunteer for my church. I coach my kids' soccer teams. I'm there for their basketball games, for their choir concerts, for their orchestra activities, for their music things. I'm here to help them because that's my values. Those are the things that I really hold dear. We have a big family. That's part of my wife and I's our shared values. So those things really matter to me, to us. Now, once you have, again, that's kind of the condensed version of what I was talking about in my previous training there, about how you get these activities. What do you do to create the ideal calendar? Well, once you get all those activities and you prioritize them, you'll notice that, I've got a bunch of lower tiered things that I'm doing, like maybe I'm the janitor for my office. Maybe I'm driving around a lot. Maybe I'm wasting a bunch of time on social media during work hours. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't go on social media for entertainment purposes or whatnot, but if you're going to do that, do it purposely. Do it time that you've got scheduled in your own personal time. That will help you to keep that potential addiction, because it can be very addicting, right, at bay, and also help you to have better mental health, overall health. So, something to think about. So once you have these activities and you know how much time you want to be spending in each of them, that's really the next part, is to say, okay, how much time do I want to be spending in those 35, 40 hours a week that you'd like to be working? Now, be careful here, because a lot of people say, well, only a few hours a week, and all of a sudden they're a 4-hour work week person. That's not ideal to go cold turkey from 70 hours to 4, right? That's not going to happen overnight. So what I like to explain to people when they do their ideal calendar, and even their business ideal calendar, is think 3 months in advance. Think ahead, but not that far, 3 months. And say, in 3 months, how can I get to this ideal number of hours? It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but by a 3-month time frame. That way, as you're working towards this, that's always going to be in the back of your mind that you're changing, you're trying to get there. In 3 months, you can look at it and then reevaluate. Don't make major changes until then. Stick to it. Hold to that hour mark. All right. So now you've got hours in each of these areas. What can you be doing? Well, now you take them and you put those hours on an actual calendar. You see, actually having a calendar that is written out or color-coded is really going to help you, especially, we can learn, we can listen on a podcast, we can watch on a YouTube video, but actually doing it with a tactile sense of writing something in or getting on your calendar. For me, I use Outlook. I used to use all different sorts of calendars, but I've got into an Outlook calendar that allows me to be able to share that with a wide array of apps and other things that I use to schedule things. But on my Outlook calendar, I have one calendar that's an ideal calendar. If you don't know how to set it up, I have all the instructions in the Make Time Productivity System, again, that I linked down below. We don't have time for that right now. You can also Google it, go on YouTube, how do I set up a Outlook calendar. There's great tutorials out there. The reality is it doesn't really matter to me what exact system that you use. Some people really enjoy, though, before they put it to something electronic, they enjoy printing off a calendar, and they will mark it up with pencil, and so they can move things around a little bit. Because what you're going to want to do is all of those activities that you've ranked as your highest priorities, you want to take those and puzzle piece them in to your 35, 40 hours, whatever your ideal is. Maybe you're at 75 and you're working down to 60 in 3 months. That's great. So that 3 month time period, you'll be able to reduce and be more productive to by 15 hours. That's pretty good. It's about 20% if you're up that high. That said, be aware that it's not going to look the same. You're going to try to put it on a calendar, and instead of getting exactly what you had in each of your columns of how many hours you have for each activity, for example, for me, public speaking, podcasting, coaching, sales and marketing, for each of those, it's going to look different on your ideal than it is your normal. But it's also going to look different when you try to put it into a calendar, because you're going to put it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or wherever you put those blocks of time, and you're going to not maybe like it on a Tuesday morning or Wednesday afternoon. So here's what I recommend. I recommend you have some kind of method to your madness when you're putting this into your calendar. For me, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my typical coaching days. Mondays and Wednesdays are my typical marketing kind of activity days. Speaking will typically trump those things, and podcasting and other things I typically do on Tuesday afternoon or Friday morning to do some recordings and editing. Okay, so that said, you get a little sense of my ideal calendar. What I try to do is block the time so that I'm not switching constantly from activity to an activity. But I can say for the next few hours, this is what I'm going to be focusing on. I pull up my software, my CRM software, and I contact people about my speaking gigs or getting on their podcasts or inviting them onto my podcast. I do that for a certain period of time, and then when I'm done, I exit out, and then I'll pull out my podcasting software and start doing podcasting or editing for those next few hours if that's on my calendar. So what I'd like to get in the habit of doing for this ideal calendar is this is the way that you're going to shrink your day. This is how you're going to become more productive. So you really need to have this spelled out on an electronic calendar, on a paper calendar. If you get it on a paper calendar, fine. Then move it to an electronic, because as we know, we all keep our phones with us. We know where our calendar really is. It's usually electronic. If you're not electronic, you're never going to be electronic. Let's understand it's rare. I used to be one of those who said, no, I'm not going to do electronic, but once I switched, I realized I can keep that with me at all times. I know what's going on, and I'm really never lost. So you've got your ideal calendar. Make changes, make adjustments. If you want to have something time blocked on Monday, but not really on Wednesday, and have that so that you've got your 35 to 40 hours. Typically, I use colors. And typically my business related activity colors are going to be different than my personal colors. So on the outside of the business, those 35, 40 hours are going to have different colors. You can go that specific if you'd like. It doesn't mean you have to do that now, but it gives me a visual. So when I pull up my ideal calendar, I can see here's where I ideally should be working. Here's where I ideally should be doing other things outside of work. Okay? Because if I'm not careful, I can become a workaholic. And my story, and any entrepreneur, are you married to your business or are you married to your spouse? The reality is, if you're not careful, you're going to choose the one that's easier to love. And that's not a good idea. So, if you have a good relationship in marriage, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's oftentimes easier to love what you do and get carried away and forget the reason why you got started. That's the whole piece, the whole Make Time productivity system. So as you're doing this, as you're creating color-coded context here on your calendars, say that 10 times fast, you will be able to have a really good association with just your eyes when you pull up your ideal calendar. Now I suggest you have a separate appointment calendar. And this is my appointment calendar that anyone can find time. It's actually in my email invitation. Anybody can select 15 minutes of my time at this point and talk to me about speaking, podcasting, etc. If there's other issues, I usually direct them to my other teammates. But if there's things that relate to those top tier activities, then I'm going to get an email from them. Okay. But they're going to be able to set some time on my appointment calendar. I have a link. They go to my Calendly app for now, and they're able to schedule it, and it automatically populates. I can set my own appointments on that calendar, and I don't see my business ideal. So if you're in my training, you know that I teach you how to overlap these in Outlook. Google, I don't think works as well, but I think you can make that happen if you know what you're doing. Apple, I've kind of shied away from Apple calendars, but I know they have different colors now as well. Outlook by far is the best I've ever seen on overlaying calendars in different colors, because it'll actually give you different phases of, shades of these colors as you're looking at it. So it's kind of fantastic. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to have an appointment calendar and an ideal calendar. The ideal calendar, you don't want to be looking at that all day long, but it's great to know the night before or the morning you come into work, what am I mainly focusing on today? And you can pick it up and say, okay, here I'm doing coaching calls, or I'm editing podcasts. For me, that's what I'm doing. It might be, hey, I'm reaching out to potential clients, closing deals. Whatever it is for you, make sure that you know what you're focusing on that day. Then click that off and look at your regular appointment calendar. And your appointment calendar, that's really where you should be. You should overlay that ideal calendar once in a while to make sure that you're on that right path. It's not there to guilt you. It's not there to be something to beat you over the head. But your ideal calendar really should be what you're aiming for, again, for a 3-month period. And as you're able to have this experience with the ideal calendar and have your appointment calendar, you're going to naturally want to gravitate toward that ideal calendar. So even if day one you totally blow it, it's fine. I mean, you've got the 3-month period to get there. At the end of the 3-month period, you might want to make some additional changes and improve more productivity so you can get down from 75 to 60 and 60 to 50. And that's what we help people do at the Make Time Institute, is really be more productive with that time so they can have time outside of their business. So you might be doing that at the end of the 3 months. You might just say, okay, this is good. I'm gonna stay here for a while. But evaluate about every 3 months so you don't get overchanging. Man, I hope this has been helpful for you today. As we talk about really the keys of the Make Time productivity system, it really is this business ideal calendar. If you can shave this down, prioritize your activities, be productive and protect this time, you will create boundaries that will allow you to make time for these other things in your life, for the goals you have individually, relationally, financially, and you'll be able to then spend this time and make time for things that are highest priorities on your personal life. This is a game changer. It's a game changer for me when I learned this, 12 plus years ago. I've tested this with couples, with couplepreneurs who are out there starting businesses, running businesses, exiting their business, so they can be more productive and get out of their business eventually. This is what I do. It's what I coach on. It's what I consult on. It's what I speak on. If you like this, again, like, share, comment. Please get this content out to as many people that need it. You might know someone that you should tag it in this video or podcast and send it to them. Please be my guest. Do that. It's helping us to spread the word at the Make Time Institute. I hope you enjoy this solo cast. I'm gonna keep these at least once a month or so, and intersperse these with my guests who I've been having such a great time interviewing. If you know somebody who works in personal or business goal achievement and you'd like to have them, contact me for the Make Time podcast, please send an email to Travis at travisperry.com. I check all my email, and I'm productive with that. Thank you very much. So send them my way. I'd be happy to talk with them. Great to be with you today. Go out, get your ideal calendar going so that on your business you can really crank in that time. And eventually, in the next step of the Make Time Productivity System is to create a personal ideal calendar for all the other things you'd like to achieve. But do this first. Squeeze that time in and be able to give yourself this extra time to achieve all of your other goals. Great to be with you today. And remember, live life on purpose.